Hello and welcome to Authors and Espresso. I'm your host, Nadia Gilkes, and this is the podcast where we build the life of our creative dreams. First, I want to say welcome to 2026. This is my favorite time of the year. January is my birthday month, so I was able to enjoy that. Had a wonderful time a couple weeks ago. And also, it's playoff season. Now, of course, I'm joining you today heartbroken over Saturday and my Bills being knocked out of the playoff season. But we have a lot of changes underway. So now, even though our season has ended, I'm still sitting here holding my breath, waiting to see who the new head coach is going to be. So that's going to be something to look forward to for the weeks ahead. But nevertheless, there is still a full year of possibilities ahead. Now, I say that, but January is almost over. So just like that, blink and you missed it. We are already almost a full month into 2026. So today I wanted to come and give a quick chat about one of the most important and sometimes the most intimidating parts of the writing journey: editing. For those of you who received my recent newsletter, you might have noticed that I mentioned that I have an upcoming book that is now officially in the editing stages. And I did receive a little bit of feedback on that, a couple of questions, people asking about my editing process. When will I be completed with that? When is the book available for pre-order? And how does that whole thing work? So I figured, well, let me just do an episode about that because hopefully we are all doing editing as part of our self-publishing process. So I wanted to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and walk you through my process. And I just want to stress that this is my process. Feel free to use it or not. And keep in mind that other people may have different processes, but I just want to let you know what I do going from the first draft to the final finish polish. And then, of course, like I love to do, give you some free tools and resources that you can use to finish your own work. So if you have something that's been sitting to the side and you are working on something right now or almost finished, and you've got a manuscript waiting, this episode is for you and hopefully gives you a blueprint to finish your work and get it put out there into the atmosphere. Now, editing is one of, I feel, the most important parts of the writing publishing journey. It really is a gift to the reader. It is you taking the time to fix any mistakes and give them a great reading experience. Taking out those bumps in the road so that they're not being stopped throughout your story, fixing mistakes in their mind. They can just read seamlessly through without any problems. So every revision, every rewrite, every choice of word phrasing, all of that is you showing respect to the person who is eventually going to pick up your book and spend their precious time reading your work. So grab your coffee, tea, whatever your favorite drink is, and sit back and relax, and let's talk about the wonderful world of editing. So before anyone else sees my manuscript, I go through it myself multiple times. So for my book that's coming out, I am currently on, I want to say I'm on like edit number 6. It's kind of crazy. Like I should say I edit by hand. So I actually print out the entire manuscript, go through it with a red pen, make my corrections, and then go back to the computer and put them in the computer. I can't seem to edit off of a screen. So writing and holding the paper just works for me. But I want to give you a reminder that your first draft is not going to be perfect, and that's okay. When people say done is better than perfect, or you can't edit what you don't write, the important thing is to just get it on the page first. And you can always go through again and again to polish it up and make it perfect. But having a first draft is so crucial. So get that first draft. And then, like I said, I go through, I print it repeatedly, however many times I need to, and I go through and I actually redline that. So when my manuscript is done, what I like to do initially is give it a couple of days or weeks to just rest. Put it down for a little bit, step away, enjoy some hobbies, change my scenery, have new experiences, and let my mind reset. Then when I pick it back up, the very first time, I read it from cover to cover, not making any edits at all, just reading it like a novel to refresh my memory on what I wrote. Because what I found my first go round was that I was editing right away and I'm like, oh, I forgot to add such and such right here. And then I would add something. And then a few pages later, that detail was actually there. So if you let your writing rest a bit, you may have to read it through from cover to cover just to refresh your mind on what you actually wrote, what sequence you wrote in, and then start going back and really doing those red lines as you start to edit. And when I start to edit, I like to start with the big picture. I think a lot of people get intimidated by the idea of editing because they start thinking punctuation, grammar, spelling, and all of those fine details. And that is the last thing I look at, because you have no idea what shape your story is going to take in the end when it becomes your finished product. So it doesn't make sense to spend time on periods and quotation marks and spelling when you might end up scrapping a whole paragraph or a whole page. So start with the big picture first. So what I like to do is look at the story overall. Is it clear? How does it flow? Are there any questions that I left unanswered? Does anything need to be cut? Is anything confusing? Did I repeat myself when I really didn't need to? Or how were the transitions between chapters? Am I writing in passive voice or is it active voice? So I look at all of that and then fine tune again and again and again. And I'll go through that again as many times as I need to. Because every time I make a correction, I tend to print it out and start all over. And once I feel like I have a strong story, then I'm looking at, is my takeaway message clear? Is it strong? Should people get it right away? You don't want your takeaway message to be hidden. So going through all of that, looking at the big picture, the story, how does it flow? Have I answered all the questions? Have I fleshed out my story idea? Then I'll go back and I'll start looking at the characters. Have I described them well enough? Is their personality clear? Is there enough dialogue? Am I narrating when I could really be adding dialogue? Because dialogue is another great way for your reader to get to know the personality of your character. Are there any awkward phrases? Again, are there any questions that are unanswered regarding the characters that I need to flesh out? And how is the pacing? Is the story lagging anywhere? Is it slow? Is it too fast? Do I need to slow down and explain something better or have a character fleshed out better? I look at all of that, redline it, and then correct it on the computer and start the process all over again. So all of that, your character, your story, the content, is it clear? What's the structure like? All of that, a lot of people call developmental editing. And that's really just looking at the big picture of your story. So after I feel like all of that is strong, my story, the content, the clarity, the flow, the pacing, the characters, once I feel like all of that is where I want it, then I go back and start looking at the formatting and the grammar, because at this point, you're getting close to what you feel is your polished manuscript. So now you can start looking at what a lot of people would call line editing or proofreading. Are the quotation marks consistent? Sometimes there's curved quotes, sometimes there's straight quotes. And pay a lot of attention to detail, so I am one of the people that will catch it. And I've noticed sometimes in Word documents or pages, it will switch the type of quotation marks it uses. I'm not sure why, but I'll go through and correct all that so that, again, it's just consistent and seamless. Your spelling, you want to make sure that there is no misspellings or that you're spelling things consistently, like the color blue, BLEU or BLUE, depending on the country of your characters. Or sometimes you'll put TOO when it should be SOO or SO, and your computer might not redline that because it's not quote unquote misspelled, but you might have something in there that's out of context. So you want to read again for grammar, for word usage, for phrasing, punctuation, and make sure that all of that is correct as you can make it. So now that we've gone through the story and the content, gone through the character development, the pacing, and the formatting, then that's when I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I have made this as good as I can with my skill set. Now I want to share it with someone and have other people's eyes on it. And I get the question a lot, how do you trust other people with your work? Or how do you know that someone won't take your idea? Or why is it even necessary to let someone else see your work? So if you want to go back a few episodes, I think actually a couple months at this point, when I interviewed Sheila Kennedy, we actually talked about this because she's also a confidence coach. So we actually did touch on this. And this is something that I, Capricorn with trust issues, struggle with. But it's so necessary because when you're writing your own work and you're drowning in your own story, over time, you know what you want to see on the page. And your mind has a way of auto-correcting and showing you what you want to see. So you might, over time, stop picking up the mistakes, even though they could be glaring. So you want somebody else's eyes on it who has not seen this work, who is objective and reading your story to give you feedback and let you know where some of the mistakes are that you may have missed. Now, depending on who you are choosing to read your story, 999 times out of 1,000, people are not looking to take your idea. They're not looking to become a published author necessarily. Or if you're swapping work with another writer, like I'll read your work, you read mine, and we'll give feedback to each other. They have their own idea and their own storyline that they want to push out. They're not trying to take and flesh out yours. So there has to be some trust there that people are not taking your ideas. They really are there to help you. But you can also protect yourself. What I like to do is email my story to myself multiple times so that email is date stamped. You can also do a mailing, like put your story in the mail and mail it to yourself, and it's got the postmark stamp so that if ever you had to go to court, you've got it stamped and dated. Don't open the envelope, obviously. You have it dated, like this is the day that I was working on the story, or this is the time frame that I was working on the story. So if a year after the fact, somebody tries to come out and say, actually, that's my idea, you've got timestamps all over the place. But that hardly ever comes into play because people really either just want to help you or you are exchanging works. So they have to trust you with their work, just like you have to trust them with theirs. So the writing community is very strong, and most of the time you should be able to trust your beta readers. So the beta readers are usually a small group of people that you select to read your work and give you feedback. And you're not just looking for feedback like, how did you like it? But you have to be very intentional, one, in who you choose, and two, in the feedback questions that you ask. So when I'm choosing beta readers, I don't often exchange work with anyone because I don't read as fast as I used to, and I don't read nearly as much as I used to, so I don't want someone's work waiting for me to read it when I know I don't have that kind of time. I'm very realistic with what I can and cannot do. There are people who can read a book a day. I know several of them. Reading is kind of like their full-time job, or, they just love to read so they can finish a book in a week. Those are the types of people that you want to read your work and give you feedback. I start with my target market, so it's very important for you to know who your target market is. If you have a message book, if you have a memoir where you are putting out a particular message and you're wanting to lead or guide someone, let's say your book is about domestic violence or leadership or whatever your topic is, hopefully you have your target market in mind. Who is your primary audience that you are looking to sell the book to? You want a few of those people in your beta reader group so that you're getting feedback from the people you actually want to buy your book ultimately. So I start there, finding people in my target market. And then within that group, I try to get people in different demographics. So I try to choose people that span different age categories, maybe 20s and 30s, 40s and 50s, 60s and over, different genders. Depending on the book, I may look for people with different sexual orientations, professional backgrounds, whatever you feel is appropriate, so that when you ask them later about the book and you're getting the feedback, it is really pinpointed to making it as strong as possible for the person you ultimately want to read your book. It's very important to find people who like to read the genre that you wrote. That is super duper important. Like I tell people, if I do read something, I'm not a sci-fi person. So don't give me a sci-fi book. I probably won't get it. A lot of things will go over my head. So I'm just very honest about what I do and don't like. And so I appreciate that. And most people are very clear about that when they're offering to be a beta reader. They might have on their profile, if you're finding someone off of Facebook or what have you, they're normally very clear about the kinds of works they want to read and what they normally write. So pick someone who likes the genre that you have written. And you also want to make sure that, especially if you're on some kind of tight deadline because you have a publishing date or you've already done pre-orders, so you're trying to get done within a certain amount of time, before you release your book to someone, ask them what their turnaround time is. When can they finish the book and meet with you or have a phone call with you to give feedback? If they say, oh, it's probably going to take me about a month because I have a lot to do, and you need feedback within 2 weeks, that's not going to work. So they should be honest with you about their turnaround time. You need to be very clear on what your deadline is if you have one, and choose people that can work within it. So once you have your group of beta readers, a lot of people might call this their editing team. Then when they have read the book, you want to interview them and be really specific. You don't want people that are just going to say, oh my God, I'm so proud of you and this was great. You really want them to answer pointed questions on the book. Was the story engaging? Was anything confusing? How did they feel about the characters? Who's their favorite character and why? Who's their least favorite character and why? Was anything unnecessary? Was anything missing? Do they still have questions? Maybe there's some holes that you still need to fill up with more details. If it is a message book, what was their takeaway message? And don't tell them what you hope the message is. Ask them to tell you what they took away. And if that doesn't match the message that you were hoping to give, then you know that that is something you need to go back and fix. Or maybe the message that people are walking away with is better and stronger than what you had in mind. So you want to pivot and make sure you strengthen that. Would they change anything in the book? Did they enjoy the book? Yes, you want to know that as well, but that's not the only question. So make sure you're asking very targeted questions about the book so that you have solid feedback to take back when you go to edit again. And if you have a book that's more of a guide or a leadership journey or a mentorship type journey, then you want to know, did the exercises work? If you have exercises in your book or resources in your book, maybe one sheet takeaway forms, did they use those exercises and did that work? So again, depending on the book that you write, you want to make sure that your questions are really, really pointed so that you can get the best feedback possible when you sit back down to edit again. Now, sometimes when you get the feedback, it might confirm what you already knew about your book. Maybe it's a great read and there's not a lot that needs to be tweaked. Sometimes it might point out blind spots that you did not realize existed, and now you know you need to add more details somewhere. Or it can show you and confirm what is really working, which is a great thing. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's a great thing. If they're like, I thought this was a perfect read, that's rare, but great. So I normally take the feedback and then I decide what I want to use, because at the end of the day, feedback is just someone's opinion. You do not have to use all of it. You don't have to use any of it. This is your book and the final editing decisions are yours. Thank the reader for their time and their feedback, and then you, in the privacy of your editing process, decide what you're going to use or not. I know when I did my first book, I had got a lot of feedback on the dialogue, and I didn't change any of that because I wanted my characters to speak a certain way so that, again, you got their personality, and I didn't always want it to be proper English. So yes, that was noted, and I took note of it, and some things I may have tweaked, but when it came to the dialogue, I was already intentional about what I used, and, if I got feedback about describing a character better or stronger, I did that because you want to give people a visual, but you don't have to change really anything. So if you feel like you've written something in a pivotal way, keep it. It's your novel. You should be proud of what you put your name on at the end. So once I get feedback from the beta readers, that's probably going to be like 2 or 3 more reprints for me. Like I said, like the book that I'm writing now, I probably have like 6 printings of it, and I keep all the versions too. I don't know why, it's just kind of this thing I do. So I keep all the versions as I'm going through from rough first manuscript to the very end in the polished final draft. And I just keep redlining and then going back and correcting, print again, read it again, redline, keep doing that until I feel like it's really, really strong. So after you've done your own reading, after you've done the beta reading, now I like to give more options and resources for you. Some people will say, oh, okay, I'm just going to pay someone to edit for me, and that's great. Other people need or want to use free resources, and that's great too. Editing can be very expensive, so I do like to give as many tips and tricks as I can so that we all can put out polished work regardless of what budget price point we're working in. So if you don't hire someone or you can't get too many other people to read it for you, what I always say is to use the text-to-speech tools that are already embedded in a lot of the programs we use every day. And that's where you have your PDF or you have your Word document and you're allowing the program to read it back to you. Because even though reading your own work, you might not catch your own mistakes, sometimes just hearing it read to you will alert you to some mistakes or things that needs to be changed within your document. You'll hear repeats or you'll hear a run-on sentence. So just having it read to you can be a huge editing tool that doesn't cost you anything. And these are embedded in Microsoft Word. I believe Google Docs has text-to-speech. The program Natural Reader, there is a free version that can read things to you. And then a lot of phones and tablets have accessibility features because those features are meant for people who can be hard of seeing. Maybe they need something read to them. So that's already embedded in a lot of programs that you use, maybe your journal or your notes app or something like that. So you can find things to read your work to you and then make edits that way. Another resource that's often overlooked, family and friends. Especially if you have a family member or a friend whose nose is always in a book. That is someone that you want to read your work because they read all the time. They know what they love. Chances are they're pretty good at grammar and catching things that are often overlooked mistakes, and they can give you feedback. Let your family know or your friends know that it is okay to be honest. They don't have to just co-sign what you wrote because they don't want to hurt your feelings, but you are trying to put out the best product possible. So it's okay for them to give you feedback. They don't have to be harsh, but honesty is okay. So use your family and friends, those who are willing to read it and can fit your time frame. If you want to go a little bit outside of your immediate family, don't overlook your teachers or your professors or mentors because they make some of the best editors. And a lot of times they're so proud of you that they may not even charge you anything or charge you something very nominal simply because they're just so happy to help you in your process to become a published author. So a former English teacher is like the best because they should know sentence structure and content and storytelling and fleshing out a story and making sure something flows in a proper order that's easy to follow. And of course, grammar and punctuation and spelling. So a former English teacher would be great, a college professor, somebody who's either a writing mentor for you or just maybe a mentor that's already in your field that just loves to read. All of those people are there to guide you, help you, want to reach back and help you achieve your goal. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask because people get really excited when you say, I'm going to be an author. I would love your help along the way. I'm almost finished. Can you read this for me? They really love that. People often, I find, want to help you. They just need to be told how they can help you. So don't be afraid to ask. And then a lot of communities, especially if you're in a big city, there may be writing groups or author communities already embedded in your neighborhoods and you just may not know about them. So if you go to your local library and look at the community board or go to social media and search for writing groups in your community or author communities, you may find that the writing groups such as Shut Up and Write or hashtag NaNoWriMo, even though the organization is gone, groups are still out there writing. You may find some in your neighborhood or using Meetup. That's a great feature, and a lot of writing groups advertise on Meetup because they have either weekly or monthly get-togethers. So that's a great way to find someone with your common interest, and they are often used to being a beta reader, so you may be able to swap chapters or books with someone. Or they may have an open reading session where you can read a chapter or two and get feedback on that work. And over time, you can actually read your work to a group of people, take their feedback, edit it, and have your book done that way. And I've sat in on quite a few of those meetings where people can read for up to 10 minutes, and then we give feedback for about 20 minutes, and they just keep coming back week after week, reading chapters, and then over time their book is done and edited. So all of these ideas, using people from all these different groups and communities, this is how people build their editing teams. And usually once you have an editing team in place, if you're writing in the genre that they like, they will continue to be on your editing team through the many works that you push out, because we're not one and dones around here. We keep pushing out work, right? So keep in touch with those people who are on your editing team and keep them posted on what you have coming next and reach out and make sure that they're still willing to work on future works and Keep them handy. Now, after you've done all of that, a lot of people don't feel like they need to go any further, but maybe you don't have any communities, or maybe you don't want to go through all of that. So you just want to pay an editor, have one or two people do it at a company, and go from there. And that's fine. A lot of people don't want to pay the exorbitant fee that it can cost for an editor, but if you can and you budgeted for that, I say do what works. So you can find editors through, I think the best way is referrals, because referrals go a long way. Word of mouth is the most powerful advertising out there. If you go to book festivals, a lot of times you can find editors. I love a book festival, and in the spring and summer, there's festivals all over. Writing conferences, and they are now both online and in person. So a lot of times for a small fee, you can attend a writing conference online and then collect the contact information from either the speakers that are on the panel or people that are in the comments, or sometimes people have their background with their contact information in it. If you see an editor, take down their information and vet them. And then if you use any kind of vanity press or hybrid publisher or indie publisher that has their own label and they assist small writers, a lot of times they may have somebody on their staff. So there's a lot of ways to find an editor out there, but just make sure that you vet them just as you would your beta readers. So you want to first and foremost ask, what genre do you normally work in? And what is your turnaround time? And how many revisions do I get? How many works have you done before? Do you have a list of referrals from websites or books that you've edited that I can take a look at? Or do you have a writing sample of your own that I can take a look at to make sure that you like the product that they put out? Because editors may charge from by the word, by the page, by the hour, which I don't like. But there's a lot of different ways that they can charge, but at the end of the day, it can end up being pretty expensive, anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000. And some people only do one type of editing. So you may need several editors depending on who you choose. Some people only do developmental editing. They only want to tell you if your story is good, if your message is clear, if the characters are developed. Some people will do that copy editing where they're looking at the grammar and the proofreading and all these things. So you want to see what services they provide and how much is that going to be, and are you going to need additional editing after they're done with their part. You also might want to ask what, if any, marketing resources they have that can assist you, because again, they're charging often a large fee. So a lot of them have a package for marketing. It doesn't hurt to ask. Talk to 2 or 3 different people, compare packages, compare pricing, compare skill set, and choose the one that works for you. But the whole point of going through all of the other things that we did beforehand is whether you're hiring someone or you're using a writing community to edit, you're doing the first initial reads yourself and doing the initial editing yourself to catch the big obvious things, so you're not spending money for someone else to catch the things that you could have caught yourself. When you're hiring an editor, or you're going out to writing communities or beta readers or your old professors or whoever, you're wanting them to catch the nitty-gritty stuff that you missed. So that's why I do this in the process that I've just outlined. So when your editing is finally finished, to me, that is the biggest hurdle of the book. And I know professionals like Stephen King and so many other authors say, as long as you're still breathing, there's edits that can be done. But you just have to trust that when your story is clear, when your message is strong, when people are getting the takeaway message that you intended, your characters are fleshed out, all the conflict is resolved in your story, that's a strong manuscript, and at some point you have to let it go. So I don't want you to get into some editing wheelhouse where you feel like it's never done. At some point, you've just got to say, this is strong. This is as good as I can make it with the skill set I have right now. I'm going to let it go and put it into the atmosphere. Now, you can always come back a couple years down the line and rewrite or re-edit or do a new edition. And I've seen a lot of people who do memoirs or nonfiction do this, like Shonda Rhimes. Like I said, I'm starting off the year reading her book. Haven't cracked it open yet. I've had some other books kind of slide in there, but her book is a nonfiction and she's got 7 new stories in her book. So she's got a new 10-year anniversary, newly edited revamp of her book. You can always do that. You can always come back and edit or add new things or fine-tune new things. And that's great to do after your skill set has gotten stronger. But where it stands now, if you've gone through all of that, you've read it, other people have read it, maybe you've paid someone to edit it, and you have what people have said, oh, this is a good final draft, time to release it and put it into the atmosphere. Because it doesn't do anybody any good staying in your computer. So don't be afraid to release your baby to the world. So that is my editing process. And right now, I want to say by February 1st, I'm going to be able to release this draft to someone else, my first beta reader, and release it from my hand and really start the process of getting feedback from other people so that I can revamp and move forward. So have deadlines for yourself, know the speed that you're working at, have an idea in mind of when you want to publish, and then let that be your guide so that you aren't hanging on to your work forever and ever. When you have a date on the calendar, this is my target date to publish, that really lights a fire under you to really get moving on it and push your book through the process so that it can get done. And your work is going to touch someone. Someone is going to read it and say, this is just what I needed to get over the hump or get through this situation, or this was the encouragement that I needed to get through this storm that I'm under. So you want to get to the point where your work is out in the atmosphere, reaching and touching and changing lives. So that's my process. If there's anything that you want me to speak on regarding the writing, editing, publishing process, as always, please let me know. I am happy to do an episode on it. You can reach me at authorsandespresso@gmail.com. If you are not subscribed to my newsletter and you want to be added to that list, please feel free to send me a message either on social media or by email, and I will get you subscribed so that you don't miss an issue. My newsletter comes out the first of every month, and episodes come out on Tuesdays. The second and fourth Tuesdays, I have author interviews, and then the remaining Tuesdays, I try to come through with a resource or nugget of wisdom for you. So be sure to look for the upcoming interviews. A great one dropped last week with Joy McMillan. I have Len Tran dropping next week, and then I have some really fun, amazing interviews coming for February. I don't want to pre-announce it yet, but have some really intriguing guests that will be coming forward. So stay tuned, continue to like, share, and subscribe anywhere that you listen to this podcast. And as always, I thank you for the gift of your time and for tuning in to Authors and Espresso. Happy writing.